Hey everybody, welcome back for another Flea Market Finds episode. This is a continuation of the pick of the Brimfield Flea Market in Brimfield, Massachusetts. This was the fall show. The previous video I featured the items I picked on the first day out, and then I went back 2 days later and hit some other dealers and ended up picking the following. First dealer that I came across that had some Machinist Tools, I ended up buying quite a few of these items from him. First, I only spotted these three items here. Got a Brown and Sharp 0 to 1 inch micrometer, pretty good shape. Lock works. It's got carbide faces. This Mitutoyo looks like maybe it's a thread pitch micrometer. It's got very, very sharp needle points that it comes down to for the anvils. There's a little bit of mild corrosion on this spindle, but the spindle's not all locked up and the lock still works. This looks like it was due for calibration in 1996, but I've never actually seen this model before, so I'll be interested to see what this is worth. This is a model 112-189. So it's interesting to me that it actually says right here in a circle 15 degree. So I think they're basically telling you that it's a 15 degree angle on these points. It's even got the wrench in there. Yep, and that is the correct box. CPM 15-1 inch. CPM. Alright, and then this Mitutoyo set is actually buried in this completely deteriorating foam is a Mitutoyo tubular micrometer set. So I think with a little bit of cleaning I might actually be able to save this. The parts themselves are actually in good shape, they're just filthy with this stuff. But this was actually a nice set. It's the heavy duty, the really like heavy, well built tubular micrometer. So I got these three items right here for 50 bucks. I got off that same dealer, I got this Ames indicator, which works perfectly fine and is a tenths indicator. Resolution on that is actually 0.0001, which is a little less common. I normally don't pay much at all for these anymore because these older drop indicators, I usually don't get too much money for them when I go to resell them. But I like this one because it was, again, these Ames ones, they're made right in Massachusetts. And yeah, this little Starrett, I think it's a model 18AA. Automatic center punch. This is the small version. And it's got a little, instead of the tip being screwed on there, somebody screwed on this little letter stamp. It's letter T. I got these two pieces for 10 bucks. Then I spotted this little drill press vise that he had there, and initially I looked at the tag he had on here, and it says vintage drill press vise, $49. So I thought we weren't going to be able to make a deal on this, and then I ended up getting it for 15 bucks, which is a good deal. Since then, I think I did spot on here that it is actually marked. When I was out there looking at it, I didn't see a name on it, and he obviously hadn't seen one because that's why he didn't put it on the thing there. But it's a tilting one too, so I was able to just make out on here that it's marked Yankee in quotes, $39.92. All right, so it actually says North Brothers Manufacturing, a division of Stanley Tool. Well, one last thing I'll say about this vise is appears to be a rare one. The 992 There's quite a few of those that have that are on eBay and have sold on eBay, various prices, but I can't find one $39.92, which is what this is. And it appears what the $39.92 has that the others lack is that it's a tilting vise. The $9.92 is just this top part and sometimes mounted on a swivel base. This was never mounted on a swivel base, you could tell. It wasn't meant to. That this is a different deal. So, all right, that's kind of neat. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with that. So after I bought that stuff from the dealer, I didn't see any of the machinist items, but then I noticed that he had some toolboxes on the ground underneath his tables and some other boxes of stuff, and I said, is there anything in those toolboxes? And one of them, looking at the box, it wasn't a machinist toolbox even, so I didn't think, there'd be anything really great in it, but I'm glad I asked, because he says, oh yeah, he says, yeah, go ahead and you can look through those. I opened up the box and it's loaded with stuff. So I bought this entire pile right here for $160, but there's some really good stuff in here. This is a Test indicator. It's in excellent shape. It works perfectly fine. And Test is a Swiss indicator. Condition is really clean on this one. It's a nice little indicator. And then this Fowler G-Road Tast, also Swiss made. So this would have been, it's badged Fowler, okay? But the reality is that, again, this is another Swiss made, very good quality indicator that works perfectly fine. A Mitutoyo 117-107, I believe that is what's in here. Yeah, multi-anvil micrometer. It has the flat anvil and a modified dowel pin is in there by the looks of it. That's a common thing to do on these, is to just put a dowel pin in. It's this little flat one here that's special that comes with it. See, it's got a step in it. And actually there's a whole tube here with various size dowel pins and the micrometer wrench. Yeah, 117-107. So that's the correct box. This Starrett planer gauge. This is a really, actually this is not a Starrett. This is interesting. This is a box for a Starrett 132 iron level. And what was in here was just this no-name planer gauge that somebody made. It's interesting, whoever made this gauge, they didn't even bother building it so that it could accept posts. There are no threaded holes. This box says it's NSK, Japan, but what's actually in here is a pretty decent set of Mitutoyo, Brown and Sharp dial calipers that actually are working perfectly fine. They're nice and smooth, they still work perfect, and they just need a new crystal. The crystal popped out. That happens when they get older, but that's not that big of a deal to replace the crystal on that, so that's actually going to be decent. And then what I liked was there was the depth foot was in there too, so I might even have a better case for these somewhere. This is a Mitutoyo dial depth gauge, which is kind of cool. I think I have one of these now, but I think, for one thing, I don't have the case. This is actually in really good shape. Not that mine isn't, but it's very clean. It's a little stiff, probably from sitting, but it's repeating the way it should. Doesn't seem to have any issues. So I'm going to take a look at the one I have and keep one and sell one probably. This is a Mitutoyo, genuine Mitutoyo 1, 2, 3 block set, which I didn't even know Mitutoyo made one of these. And each one of these blocks is actually silk screened on the end, Mitutoyo. So, and I checked, and all 3 blocks are marked. They are, in fact, genuine Mitutoyo blocks, and they're in great shape in this nice little box. So that's a really nice find. And then the last item in this lot was this Federal Testmaster indicator. Now, normally I do not pay much for these Federal DTIs, just because the early ones were decent quality, but the problem is they're so early you can't get parts for them. And then some of the later ones were really poorly made. But the reason why I put this in the pile was because I just thought it was cool as heck. Because check out this DTI. Look at the size of the dial on this thing. Here's a standard drop indicator, and this is a DTI. Note the body, you know, your typical DTI body. And this is working perfectly fine, and it's a 1/2 tenths indicator. I just thought that was really neat. And the funny thing is, I actually have one of these in my collection. When I initially got that one that I have now, I kept it only because it's the only one I've ever seen. And now I have 2 of them. I'll just grab my other one real quick just to see. I'm curious if it's the same exact thing. Yeah, it sure looks like it. Oh no, actually, the one I have now is a tenths indicator. It's 0.0001. It's also in perfect working condition and is very, very clean, like it's seen very little use. And then the last 4 items I bought from that dealer were these right here. I actually spotted this on the end of the table. Initially I didn't pay much mind to it because I forgot what he had for a price on this, but it was kind of high. But I just thought it was a neat looking vise. And so then when I was working the deal on this, I ended up revisiting this, and I got this lot for $50. I figure I'm into this little Japanese bench vise for $20. I think somebody made this handle with these fancy brass finials on it. I don't think that's probably not the original. It's kind of out of character with the rest of the vise, but the vise itself is kind of cool. It's marked Japan, and it's basically got it swivels around to the smaller set of jaws to the larger set of jaws, so you can, you know, fix it at whatever angle you want, which makes it kind of handy. And it's just a kind of a neat size. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this originally had a suction cup base, believe it or not. I think I've seen this style before. See the holes going through here and the support there. I think there might have been a cam action type of deal inside here that actually pulled a piston up to create suction on a rubber base. So I think this is modified, but I still like it. And then that means I'm into these 3 items here for $30. And what we've got here is we've got a perfectly working Tech Lock, which again is Japanese import, but actually not that bad. With the long point on it, works perfectly fine. So that DTI, another one of these Tech Lock drop indicators. This one is sticky, but it works fine. It's just sticking, and that's more than likely from just sitting so long. So a little bit of cleaning usually on the stem. And then this set of FTCO telescopic gauges, 6-piece set. So this is another one of these import sets, but it appears like it might be brand new and never used. No, they were used because somebody took the time to actually engrave every single one of them individually. But anyways, the last one of these import sets of these, I think I got $15 for. So, anyways, that's that. So this next item is something I think I may have even seen this at the spring show. This dealer, I ran across this dealer who had this cache of vintage electronic stuff. He had a tube tester, but it was a real basic functionality had real basic functionality. It wasn't the kind of tester that I've been hoping to get for myself. So I passed on that. But one of the items that he did have sitting there still was this B&K Model 801 Capacitor Analyst. So I just recently featured in a Flea Market Finds video a Sprague Tello mic. So this will be technically the, let's see, 5th capacitor tester that I will have in my collection now. I have 2 Sencores, I believe. Yeah, I have 2 Sencores, a Heathkit, a Tello mic, a Sprague Tello mic. So the funny thing about this is initially I passed on it, and then I walked away and was looking at some other stuff, you know, and he had 45 on this, but I knew that he had had it for a while. So then I looked it up online and actually realized this is actually a pretty nice tester and good if it's in good working order. It's a decent tester. So I went back and I said, hey, you know, if you want to take $20 for that, I'd take a chance on it. And he agreed. So I got this for $20 and I, you know, don't have no idea whether or not it does anything. Let's plug it in and have the excitement together. Alright, so I've got it currently powered up with the power switch off. Where is the oh, it's an off meter adjust knob. Got a hum. Oop, gotta take that call. Pardon me. Alright, where was I? We're about to let the smoke out. Alright, so I'm hearing a hum. Oh, look at that. Meter deflection. So I think this has vacuum tubes in it. So those just came to life. Yep. I can see tubes in there glowing. Alright, so now that the tubes have warmed up, it's not fully stabilized, but we can see that I can calibrate this. So I guess if I put this to open, well, I found an online PDF version of the manual for this thing and was able to determine that this is one sick puppy. It's not working correctly, so it's going to need some repair at some point. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'll just sell it as is or if I'll bother repairing it. We'll see. Next up, I came across a dealer who had this Starrett 196 back button indicator in a really early case. The indicator actually is working perfectly fine, even though it's a little dinged up. And there's actually a few attachments in here. There's the whole attachment, the vertical rod, clamping bar. So this is actually a fairly complete set. The wood case is kind of rough. It's separating here. And the original lid is missing, but there was this hunk of aluminum plate somebody had just cut to the right size to fit in the grooves there. But I got that for $10, so not bad. The same dealer had this little interesting inside caliper style micrometer. This is a Viz made in Poland, and it actually is in pretty decent shape. Micrometer wrench is in there too, and it even came with a standard 0.2 inch. But because it's an import, I didn't value it at too much, but I ended up getting it for $5, so I did all right there. And another guy I came across doesn't usually have Machinist Tools. I actually know this dealer, and he said, "Hey, I got something for you," and sold me this Interrapid with it's got a couple of new points in the baggie. It's got the it's interesting. It's got the little attachment, and the rod's broken off. I don't know how the heck that happened. But the indicator itself is still working perfectly fine. It's in actually pretty good shape, and there's some paperwork in here. And I got this for 20 bucks. And then the last Machinist Tool buy was in another dealer's booth, and I came across this and realized that this is a partial set of collets for a jeweler's lathe. I think he said that he had the jeweler's lathe and sold it, and the guy didn't want this, which is weird. Either that or he didn't realize he had this. I forget why, but for whatever reason, he said he recalls having the lathe, but he couldn't recall who made it. It's like that one's just marked with a 5. This one's just says 48, so that might be millimeter. I don't know. Well, no, that wouldn't be, right? Because that's really tiny. So these are just marked HR, made in USA. So I decided take a chance on these. I got him down to 10 bucks on this set. And I'm probably going to hold on to this for the time being, because occasionally I come across jeweler's lathes. And every once in a while I'll get like a pretty decent offer on one, but I'll pass on it because it'll be missing a bunch of tooling. And if it had, if I get one cheap and I pair it with the correct collet set, it might be worth doing something. Alright, so I got the final 2 items to show you, and then we'll be done with this pick. And my final purchase that day ended up being these 2 D104 microphones. It had started raining pretty hard at that point, and came across this dealer whose stuff was just sitting out there in the rain, and he was packing up to go home, and I saw these 2 D104s, and I was like, oh. I walk up, and there's a tag on here, $65 each. And I was like, oh, I mean, it's bad enough that they're sitting out here getting rained on. But got to talking to the guy, and he ended up taking my offer of 40 bucks for the pair. So I'm only into these for 20 each, which is good because I have quite a collection of these now. So, all right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. Take care.